Chapter 18. Ratification. Before I came to Hath, I did not comprehend the lure of status, power and prestige. I believed that halting the destruction of our fragile ecosystem would become a priority once they understood what type of world they would be giving to their children and grandchildren. But the quest for power was much stronger than the desire to give a beautiful unsullied world to their descendants. With maturity I considered the hundreds, thousands or more parents who do the most heinous things to their children. I am certain they rationalize their actions when the lure of power and profit overcomes the gentler emotions of parental love. Just considering such things made me weep. Zeren had to comfort me in my distress. The only cure for the black despair that threatened to consume me was to work with him to fight against this evil that would usurp the rights of all children to live in a pristine world. Lioness of Hath, Personal Journal. Zacharias helped Estoliana into her saddle and then paused, his hand on her thigh. The beautiful twisted trees of the Spirit Grove made this the ideal location for seclusion. Peace and fulfillment, he thought, were the two words that best summarized how he felt. He swung up into the saddle and they both turned their steeds towards home. I believe that Estolia will be a wonderful queen. Estoliana's voice was rich with satisfaction. They discussed their sons Kaylee, and the future of their land, and arrived at their home before they had exhausted the topic. Estoliana, with streaks of white at each temple, and the lines, spots, and wrinkles that time had inscribed upon her flesh, was still the most beautiful woman in the world. She was his constant companion, sleeping by his side nearly every night since the Anchor Moon foundered off the southern coast. They had been together fully half of his life, more than half of hers. When they dismounted, Zacharias extended his hand to her and together they entered their home. "My Kaylee, did you find what you sought when you set out for Pequeño?" he asked her. It was rhetorical, but she answered anyway. "Oh no, Zacharias. I did not find what I sought. I sought safety from my father's choices, but what I found was a paradise greater than any storyteller could explain or describe. I found love more beautiful than any ever before experienced. Though I knew it not, I found Horizon here upon our waking world. I found you, Zacharias." He extinguished the candles before leading her to their bed. Sebastian entered the future ceremony room and looked around. The stalagmite had been removed. It had dominated the chamber when he, and Zacharias first discovered it, that he expected to feel an emptiness once it was removed. But the stump of the rock formation, now converted fully into a religious dais, looked and felt right. As if this was always the plan deity had. The tiers around the periphery would take many years to carve out. But the dais was now a solid surface upon which future Estolians could hold sacred ceremonies until time itself ceased. In a few hours, they would hold the ceremony on the steps leading to the entrance of the temple. When Zacharian and Omador discussed their plans for ceremony of succession, Sebastian felt peace settle over his soul. Deity approved. When Zacharian and his beautiful Kaylee arrived, they climbed the stone steps to where Zacharias stood with Amador to one side. Zacharian chose to stand one step lower than Estolia, with her directly in front of him, leaning back against him. His hands rested over her abdomen, and his cheek pressed against hers. When Zacharias stepped forward, the crowd grew silent. He raised his voice so that all who were present could hear him. "When I came to Estolia, I promised deity that I would take Estoliana to be my Kaylee, the keeper of my soul. That I would wed her in 7 days, and be ever faithful to her until time itself ceased to be. I have been true to my word, and in turn, deity has kept every promise made to me, large and small. We have raised the next generation of Estolians to be literate and aware of my promise." He looked at his son. "Zacharian, as my firstborn son, you have now reached the age of 30, the age that deity required you to wed. What have you to say to your king and to the citizens of Estolia?" "I, Zacharian, he whose burdens and blessings are greatest in the light and sight of deity, hereby proclaim that I have taken the purity of Estolia, daughter of Corleon of Palmyra. She came to me willingly, and has taken my soul within her keeping. She has consented to be my Kaylee, my wife, my queen, my everything. We come here this day to be joined, to fulfill your promise to deity, and to bring into this world, in the proper time, a son to seal the exchange and to be our future king. We seek the blessings of the Spirit, that all we do might be accepted and our future prosperity both as a couple and as a nation be assured. Could Estolia really be the daughter of Corleon? Sebastian studied the face of the future queen, raptly noting similarities to his beloved Corella. The morning light changed subtly. It was as if mist was shrouding the sun, but he could see no mist, no source of the sudden muting of the world around him. A warm hand grasped his. Corella. At his side, looking at him, love shining in her eyes. Is this not a most satisfactory conclusion to our story? She gestured towards Zacharian and Estolia, as immobile as Key's statue of Zacharias. Is this to horizon, then? No. There is one more thing you must do before we can be together. Yearning to be with her now, not some distant point in the future, he asked, "What is it?" She only smiled. A different voice answered his question. Can you not guess, Sebastian, what final duty remains to tie you to mortality? Deity. Dressed like the other Estolian women enjoying the celebration. The answer was suddenly obvious. The coronation. He looked back at Corella and said softly, I must remain, to be a part of the coronation, to see Estolia's son born. Deity's voice echoed through his heart and mind. The lineage of kings in Estolia will always be as much yours, Sebastian, as it will be Zacharias.